More protests have been taking place in various French cities after the President, Emmanuel Macron, used controversial executive powers to push through a pension reform.
The people in France, in fact, say that they are simply not going to take the changes into their pension as is being proposed by Emmanuel Macron.
Protests against his controversial pension reforms are putting him under intense political pressure.
Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are talking about France hates pension reform. But before we continue our video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for more interesting videos. Why the French are protesting against pension reform. A reform of France's pension system is set to push up the minimum retirement age from 62 to 64. The government has said the measures are needed, but most French and even a number of economists disagree. The demonstration on a recent Thursday afternoon could be a bad omen for President Emmanuel Macron. About 80,000 people gathered in Paris and over 1 million across France, more than at any other French protest in over a decade. They were there to show their opposition to the government's pension reform plans, which even some economists disapprove of. Protesters in the street leading from Place de la République to Place de la Bastille in northeastern Paris were holding up placards saying things like, "I love my pension," and "This reform is not inevitable. It does not create social justice." France's pension system does not include any capital-funded elements. It comprises general branches for private employees and public servants, and 27 so-called special pension schemes for example, ballet dancers or police officers that benefit from an earlier retirement. The government now aims to increase the system's overall minimum retirement age from 62 to 64 years by 2030. Under current rules, French pensioners enjoy monthly paychecks of 61% of their previous salaries, while in neighboring Germany, this figure is a paltry 38%. France's pensions, widely considered to take up a staggering 12% to 14% of gross domestic product in a country that already has the largest government expenditures among OECD nations at 55.6% of GDP, are unsustainable. Macron, the youngest French leader since Napoleon, wanted his legacy to be a more open, competitive French economy built on the banking and billion-dollar tech startups that the country has lured post-Brexit. However, as he now looks to make urgent changes to France's pension system, his hard-won second term looks increasingly like a Tantallian punishment, with his beleaguered government struggling to pass any legislation. The president has sought to draw attention away from the precariousness of his administration by focusing on foreign affairs, while having his Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne fight his domestic political battles. However, public sector reform has always been a feature of his political philosophy, and, having so doggedly sought reforms to labor laws, he has now turned his attention to the pension system. Today, however, when French life expectancy at birth is among the highest in the world, 80 for men and 85 for women, the low retirement age is especially hard to justify. But with a staggering 80% of citizens opposed to reform, Macron is facing another round of widespread protests, with more than 1 million people taking to the streets this week as he embarks on bringing down another pillar of France's generous state. The proposed changes are tabled to go before Parliament early next month, but they are controversial amid a cost-of-living crisis, and given that the government does not have an absolute majority, the road to a vote will be fraught. Most sensitive are France's cradled public sector workers. Under the new rules, new entrants will not be eligible for the special pension regimes enjoyed by their predecessors. The problem is not that the French do not see the need for reform, as almost half say the system needs to change to secure its future. With more than 40 different pension systems working in parallel, France has one of the most fragmented arrangements in the world, having a gross impact on job mobility, and it is, as it stands, unsuitable. Though opposition is significant, there are reasons to assume that Macron will succeed. The government is counting on getting the reforms accepted by increasing the minimum pension for low-income workers who have had a full career to 85% of the net minimum wage. Extending this measure to current pensioners would improve the circumstances of 2 million citizens overnight. France has no option but to close the looming deficit, and since pensions are funded by active workers, the government's alternative to raising the retirement age is raising pension contributions. Currently, workers pay 7% of their salaries to the state pension fund and 3% to 8% to an occupational pension plan. Faced with the option of working for 24 months longer later in life or losing much-needed disposable income while raising families, many are likely to choose the former. The threshold of 64 is already a concession from the proposed 65 and a reasonable climb, given that the Netherlands last month confirmed it would increase its retirement age to 67 in 2028. A great deal of whether Macron will be able to implement these reforms is the scale of the public backlash. Though the president's haughty and confrontational style has won him few friends, he has an opportunity to ensure a lasting legacy and to get France moving and marching as he had initially hoped. The scale of these reforms only increases with the failure of each president to implement them. Today's challenges are a direct result of the government's failure to build the Pensions Reserve Fund, which was set up in 2001 with the aim of financing the future shortfall of the state pay-as-you-go system. Having targeted creating a fund totaling 150 billion euros, $162 billion, by 2020, it is today worth only a fraction of that, while France only grows older and the bill to care for its aged only increases. Despite the government's efforts to negotiate with the unions, the protests continued into numbers. Many French citizens remain opposed to the proposed pension reform and have called for the government to listen to their concerns. The debate over pension reform in France is far from over, and the outcome of this controversial proposal remains uncertain. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more amazing videos.